I have been joined by Leonard Shang-Quartey, who is the coordinator of Tax Justice Coalition. This is his first time on our news review. Good morning, Leonard.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
How are you?
Very well.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, too.
We also have with us Edward Tuttor, who is a convener of the Dynamic Youth Movement of Ghana. Good morning, Edward.
Good morning, Dziffa.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
It's been a while.
Blazing, huh?
Thank you. It's been a while. I haven't had you on our set. You were here last week, but I wasn't here, so it doesn't count.
And you were missed, huh?
Thank you. So we take a look at our first story. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says here, Communications Minister accuses telcos of robbing Ghanaians in CST implementation. The Communications Minister, Ursula Owusu-Ekuful, has accused the telecommunication companies of robbing consumers in their implementation of the communications service tax. The minister said the telcos deviated from the agreed implementation plan when it shifted the tax to the consumer. So I'm going to quote her briefly, and then we'll dig into the conversation. So the minister says, the ministry met network operators and the regulators just a week after this tax came into effect on this unusual practice which flew in the face of industry experience. We were informed by the network operators that they took advantage of the 3% increase to pass on the entire tax, which is 9% to subscribers. This has effectively increased their profit margins at the expense of subscribers when there had been no other change in their operational environment. Whatever they may have lost in absorbing the 6% CST, they more than made up for it by refusing to roll over credit that has been paid for by consumers, but remained unused in the expiration of the bundle period. They are now effectively robbing consumers by passing on the full tax while retaining the unused data on voice bundles. So, Leonard, I'll start with you to provide us some context to what's going on, because on October 1st, we received a message from our telecommunications companies telling us that we'll be paying 9% on this CST. And some people were shocked because we thought it was supposed to be 3%. Now the communication minister is coming out to say the telcos have taken advantage of this 3% to pass on the 6% they were absorbing prior to October 1st onto us. What exactly is going on?
I think this began with the increment in the media review. That's of the 2019 budget, where we had this increment from 6%, that is on the CST, to 9%, so a 3% increment. And at the time, I mean, we were quite vociferous about that, but the consumers had not felt it much, so there wasn't much public pressure on the issue until the implementation, when the public got an idea about what we were talking about, because now people are feeling it in their pocket. But then basically, what is happening here is that, I mean, service taxes are different from, let's say, VAT, so they are not treated the same way. Whereas for VAT, you know that it's a tax on the value added, which is payable by the consumer. Service taxes are not so clear, and that's the problem.
Why aren't they clear? This is supposed to help with innovation.
Yeah, but then it is the law that makes it clearer. It is the law. So the basic question here is that, what does the law say? So therefore, then you have to look at what the Act 864, that's the Communication Service Tax Amendment Act.
What does it say?
And Section 2 of the Act deals with the question, and it talks about persons liable to pay the tax. And this is what it says. The tax shall be paid together with the electronic communication service charge payable to the service provider by the user of the service. So actually, the telcos went out of their way to absorb.
Really?
Yeah, to absorb
the 6%.
To absorb the 6%. So I mean, that's what the maybe...
So what's the minister now saying, that they shouldn't have absorbed it?
It means
I mean, they shouldn't have passed it on to us, the customers.
So we
They
must...
should have absorbed the 3% as well, or at least just kept that 3% for us.
Let me read it for you again. The tax shall be paid together with the electronic communications services charge payable to the service provider by the user of the service. That's what, maybe I'm not interpreting it rightly, but then that's what it says in black and white here. So what the minister is in effect saying is that it's asking the telcos to flout
The law.
to flout the law. And I'm also wondering, where's the finance ministry, where's the GRA in all of this? Because they are responsible, or the finance ministry is responsible for tax policies in this country. But then you have the Minister of Communications leading the charge here. So if this is the case, then you realize that the telcos over the period, maybe in order not to make the services, the cost of the services so high, decided to absorb. Now they cannot bear it. And I'm even surprised at the transparency that the telcos themselves have tried to show now. I don't know, because in the past we've also asked questions as to what goes into some of these charges.
But wouldn't you say that, as the minister rightly said, there are countries in this world where people have unlimited voice, text, talk, whichever the case may be, internet. If I buy 10 cedis worth of internet and I don't finish it in 2 days, I have it, it's mine, I bought it. How come these telcos are able to tell me it's expired? If you buy 100 cedis and you don't finish it within a period that you selected, they keep it. If you talk, they keep it. So they are making excess profit.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they put that into consideration and not pass this tax on to us, the consumers?
It's fair argument, and I'm also a little bit disturbed that the ministry chose this particular time to raise this issue.
Why?
Because it's been there for a long time. Is it a tit for tat action on their part?
Well, if they are aware that the telcos are making a lot of profit, then it's normal for you to just absorb the 3%.
So this is something that should have been resolved long ago, given that they are aware of this injustice being suffered by
The
consumers.
people.
But then they chose this time maybe as a reprisal for what, and it doesn't sit well with me. But then the other issue that we have to look at is that we need the Ministry of Finance and the GRA to provide some direction on this matter going forward. I mean, it is the law that provide. Elsewhere they might be doing all, but then it is the law and the regulations and how the operator operates within the limits of the law. Have they gone outside the law? Have they gone outside of the regulations? If yes, apply.
Okay.
But then here we can see vividly what the law asks of them, and that is that is what they are doing. So
okay.
I'm a little bit at a loss what the minister is. It is not the telcos that are imposing this hardship. Okay. It is the increment which is imposing this hardship. The telcos are only implementing the policy of government.
Okay, thank you. Edward, let me come to you on this one.
Dziffa.
So October 1st,
Yes.
our telcos tell us that we'll be paying 9%. Some people load 10 cedis.
Yeah.
It comes up as some 9 cedis or so. We don't say anything because, hey, what can we do? The telcos are deciding.
Exactly.
Now, 2-3 weeks in, the minister in charge of communication comes out to tell us that these guys shouldn't have passed on the 9% to you, the consumers.
Yes.
They've been absorbing 6% all along. If they're going to even pass anything on to you, should have been the 3%. What does this say about regulation in the sector? That one, we pay so much for data that we usually can't finish, or you have to finish it so you can buy more.
Yeah.
Telcos are doing whatever it is they want, and who's actually regulating them?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say a good morning to you, my co-panelists, and our viewers out there. We are here talking about tax, Fundamentally, so far as public finance is concerned, taxation remains the most guaranteed source of government revenue.
Yeah.
And in our system where successive governments have struggled to achieve fiscal consolidation, where the projected revenue will match up to the projected expenditure, the easiest way and the most feasible way for them to create physical space to meet any form of expenditure is taxation. So in our volatile economy like we have no choice than to expect constant increment in taxes. Now, when it comes to communication, it has become a necessity. You cannot live without data. You need to be on social media, you need to check on friends, loved ones. So it has become so clear that if government wants to bring in new tax and raise revenue, obviously it's going to be this space, okay? Now, the life source of every tax is law. Without law, there can be no tax. The Constitution has made it very, very clear. But the question has to do with interest, okay? Because the law has been passed, the telcos are prepared to do what the law requires them to do. But now it looks as if the issues have become two, okay? Issue number one, what is the incidence of the tax? At what time is the tax due? Is it when you recharge, or is it when you start, consuming? You understand? The telcos are saying that this is a directive that has come. We have absorbed 6%. We didn't pass it on to the final consumer. But now there has been an augmentation. So we are pushing everything to the consumer now, as the law says. You understand?
But why would they have to do that?
You see?
Because your cost of production did not increase. All along, you've been absorbing the 6%. So if the minister or the government tells you that you're going to pay 3% more, all you should do is pass the 3% on to me. Why are you passing 9% on to me when your cost of production has not increased? It's not like your labor cost has increased in any way, shape, or form. You've been absorbing the 6% all along.
As I said earlier on, the foundation of every law, of every tax is law. So we need to go back to the law and look at what the law says, okay? Now, this whole communication that you're talking about, it is not the only component. Okay, we have NHIL, we have Get Fund, and we have VAT substantive. Then we have the CST. You understand? This is what the law demands from the telcos. And you and I, so long as we recharge, we are going to be paying. Now, when you take a look at the Regulation 16 of the VAT Act, okay, the Regulation 16, Section 1, Subsection 3, it is clear that the supply of any form of recharge, okay, should attract a charge. Okay. So meaning the incidence of the tax applies the moment you recharge. It is not when you start using. Whether the telcos deduct it when you start using or not, the GRA demands that the tax must be paid. Now, but all this while, the communication does not come to us. The telcos absorb it. So you and I don't know that for all this while, anytime you recharge, you are paying VAT, you are paying NHIL, and so on, Get Fund and so on. But now they are doing, in my opinion, they are doing the right thing now by letting us know. Okay. But you see, government has an interest. There's an election coming. Taxes generally make governments very unpopular. Now, what is the political, catastrophe of when you wake up every morning, you recharge, and there's a deduction? So if you don't take time, you are going to be spending extra cash for which you have not budgeted for. You understand? So what I would advise is, look, we have government which is the overall boss. But in issues like this, stakeholder engagement is very, very important. The posture of government, as I see it, is very combative, giving direct instructions, do that. But you see, let's look at the legality. What the telcos are doing, are they breaching any law? In my opinion, they are not.
But Edward, did they have to do this for every time you recharge, then you get a message? I mean, they sent us a message of why they were even doing what they are doing in the first place. Secondly, these telcos have been in this country for decades. They've not done anything as far as innovating cost of consuming data, cost of talking, cost of texting. All of this is going on to accumulate their profit. Dziffa, and no one has said anything about why are Ghanaians paying so much for something as basic as communication.
Do not operate in isolation. They are not an island. They are under regulation. Now, the regulator who sat down for this thing to go on, where were they? You understand? Where were they? But to me, if you ask me, what the telcos were doing, they were rather breaching the law, because they were supposed to communicate to us that when you recharge, this is the component that is going to the government. That communication is, we are entitled to it, but they didn't do the right thing and they absorbed it. But now that they are deciding to do the right thing, government is now coming out of the woods and saying that no, you shouldn't do that. Look, the law is very explicit, all right? The only issue that I have has to do with the ethicality of what the telcos are doing. In that, ab initio, you were not doing the communication, but now you are doing the communication. So it's appearing as if it is something that is totally new. But the truth of the matter is that it is not something new. It has been in the system. It is only when we had this increment from 6 to 9% that they are actually doing the communication. So in doing the communication, the telcos are also operating sort of in bad faith that they are communicating only the CST. But in natural sense, it's not only the CST. We have NHI out there, we have Get Fund, and we have the substantive VAT. You understand? So going forward, the communication should be done so that everybody is going to understand. But government is not in the position. Let me make this clear. It is not up to government to decide as to how the telcos package the services that they want to render to us. Because we, the consumers, we are not forced to tie our apron string to just one telco. We have the decision to make that looking at your reliability, looking at your services, looking at your responsiveness to answering problems that I have. How do you manage me? You understand? I have the decision to make that, okay, I choose A, I choose B because your data do not roll over and all that. That is some waters that government should not go into. Rather, what government should do is that, look, we brought the tax. You are telling the telcos that, okay, slap them, but close their eyes so that they don't know who is actually slapping them. The telcos will say, no, we need transparency. We need to make profit. You understand? This increment, if we absorb it, it's going to affect our profit margins. So we are pushing it. Government will say, no, don't do that. Look, at the end of the day, who is suffering? Government is thinking of their interests. They are thinking of their popularity and how the public is going to receive this. Telcos are thinking of their profitability. Now, no matter how you see it, we, the final consumers, we are those who are paying. Okay. Who is watching out for us? Who is watching out for our interests? I'm looking for it as a consumer. I'm looking forward to a conversation where government will say, okay, we are reducing this particular tax so that we can receive some relief. But if you are thinking of the modality of how the tax is going to be taken, whether they take it through channel A or channel B, in the final analysis, we, the consumers, we are those paying. And my heart goes out to we, the youth, because we spend a lot of time on social media, and we cannot do without social media these days. Social media has become very important for business, education, and online transactions. In the final analysis, we are all being burdened. And if government really thinks about the interest of the people, if the government really wants to go by the promises it made to us, that they are going to move this economy from taxation to production, it should bow its head down in shame and do the right thing by obliging by the trust that we have imposed in them, that they are going to make life easy for us, by trying to tie the hands of the telcos behind them and forcing them to do something at the blind side of the law. For me, I think is highly unacceptable.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Leonard, let me come to you here. How exactly is it that we don't have rollover naturally? That you buy data and everything is pay as you go, pay as you go, pay as you go, when in other countries, all these things have been taken care of. You innovate your services over time. But it seems as though in Ghana, telecom companies compete on marketing, not on the services they are rendering to the Ghanaian public. So is there some merit to what the minister is saying, that you guys have been making so much profit, we've not been saying anything. If we're taxing you 3%, why do you now go on and add that 6% you've been absorbing to the customer?
I think on the issue of the bundles, that's one of the promotional activities of the telcos, which is valid for a period and which is communicated to you beforehand, and you have options from which to choose from. But it's painful when you have a backlog of data that
and
just
lose it.
So maybe that's something that we can look at now, that government can try and
But haven't they been taking advantage of us? Because you should be able, as a consumer, I should have the choice to say, if I bought 100 cedis and my thing expires tomorrow, I can top up that 100 cedis and carry it over. just a few of them are doing this. So doesn't that also say a lot about the freedom they've been enjoying in this country?
I think speaking as a consumer, I mean, it can be very painful when you lose, I mean, such data, especially when you have your data plan and then you are not able to consume and then it doesn't roll over. But then we also have to look at we have to view the issue from the other perspective. That this is something that you were given options. You can choose to buy a day, you can choose to buy a week, you can choose to buy a month, but then you chose to go for a day.
But aren't those options themselves problematic?
Yes, they are problematic, but then it depends. Okay. It depends on your data plan. Oh, I think I'll be doing some huge amount of work. I need X amount of data, so I want to buy this. I'm not making an excuse for that. But then, given that consumers have been on the losing side, maybe government can step in and then bring in some directive as to how this whole service should go, so that consumers are also protected from these practices of the telcos. I would not say that they were doing the wrong thing, even though consumers were hurting by that particular. But then back to the what we are looking at is now if we can return to the status quo, because from the argument, if we can return to the status quo ante, the situation before, because the minister is
of breaking the law.
No.
And absorbing the 6%.
I'll come there.
Okay.
I'll come there. The minister is now accusing the telcos of imposing hardship on Ghanaians. That's not true. It's the increment that is causing the hardship.
It was
so
3%. It was 3%.
Yes.
You don't take 3% and pass on an additional 6%.
Because
you were
by
originally
law,
absorbing.
No. By law, this charge is payable by.
So you apply the law when it's convenient for you as a business.
So the interest of the minister presently is to reduce the hardship on Ghanaians. Just reverse that particular increment. It is true. It is true that we need more revenue. We want to widen the tax net. In some cases, deepen it, but it is not in all places that you.
Let's go for a quick break, and then I'll let you dive in right after this. So, of course, this is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. As usual, we want to hear from you. So, if you have any questions, comments, or contributions, let us know with the hashtag Breakfast Daily, and the WhatsApp line is 0550-585-832. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. And we're still discussing what's going on with this tax on communication. On October 1st, we were informed that at least by telcos that we'll be paying 9% taxes on the services that they render us. Now, the Minister of Communications has come out to say that we're supposed to pay 3% maximum because they've been absorbing the 6% all along. I still have with me Leonard Shang-Quartey, who's a coordinator of Tax Dialogue or Tax Justice Coalition. Today is in Tax Dialogue. And Edward Tuttor, who's a convener of Dynamic Youth Movement. And Leonard, you were explaining something to us before we went on break.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm adamant to maybe go at the telcos is because this is what the law provides.
Yes, but you can't choose to follow the law when it suits you. You decided to absorb the 6%. Yes. Now that it's gone up to 3%, you're saying, I'm not going to follow the law at all. I'm going to pass it on to the consumer.
But they did not break the law because they paid what is due to government from their own cost, which is an expense to them. So you will say that they bent over to, I mean, at least do what government asks of them. So what we have is what they call the reverse charge mechanism. So, and that's what the law provides for. So it is payable by the end user. That is the service receiver. The law could alternatively have a situation where we will have what they call the joint charge mechanism, where service receivers share the cost with service providers. And then there's the third one where the service provider is liable for the entire cost. this is what our lawmakers decided on. This is what our government decided on, to have the reverse charge mechanism. And that is what is playing out. So you cannot come back after the fact and then be accusing the telcos.
So the minister is wrong for doing what she's doing.
And this is why I'm also requesting of the ministry that they reverse this particular cost, so that at least we go back to the situation before where the telcos
we need money to work on innovating fraud issues and all those things in the sector. Where are we going to get it from if we don't take the 3% tax?
But then we also agree with the minister that in our effort to rake in more revenue, we don't unduly burden the citizenry. Because, mind you...
But how will we attack cybercrime, lack of innovation in the sector if we don't get those monies?
But then how will we also expand our digitization agenda? How will we also ensure that ICT is playing a strategic role in our development by making it available for all?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Edward,
let me just submit briefly that at this particular point in time, the Ministry of Communication is usurping the powers of the GRA. By law, the GRA is the agency that has the sole power to administer tax. As to how they are going to collect it, as to whether those who are supposed to pay are abiding by it or not. And you see, if you ask me, I would say that what the telcos are doing now is going to inure best to the interests of GRA.
Okay.
Look, I think about 3 months ago in Chicago, the IMF held a stakeholder consultation. And they told our finance minister that looking at our debt stock, okay, the best panacea to reducing our debt stock has to do with a robust internal revenue mobilization. So that's why there was shake-up at the top level management of the GRA. Yeah. Why? Because they believe that we need to raise revenue internally. And now looking at what the telcos are doing, the GRA is going to be very happy because now there's transparency. At least, if not for anything at all, the messages that you send to your customers, informing them about the tax, becomes database for us to know how much you are taking from them and how much we are also taking from you.
Why are they passing on 6% to us when it was just increased by 3%? What changed between all this while that they've been absorbing the 6% to October 1st when they were supposed to just add 3% on?
I think that at that time, they were doing us all a favor.
So why did they decide to not do the favor anymore? If you care about your customers that you're servicing, you wouldn't punish them that way by passing over 6% you're supposed to be absorbing to them. I'm
concerned as you are, but the basis here is the law. The only way that you and I can have some relief is for the law to be amended. And the law makes it clear that implementation of new taxes, repealing taxes, and whatever it is, lies in the power of Parliament. If our duty bearers acknowledge that there's so much hardship in the system and that you and I deserve to enjoy some form of relief, we can go back to Parliament today and by resolution, this increment can be abolished. Or in fact, the entire communication service tax can be abolished. That is the only way out. The absence of the willpower to abolish the tax cannot make up for how the telco decide to take it.
Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next topic here. I'm still reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says, release data on Kelny GVG within 14 days. That's Attoforsen to GRA. So, Kaisel Attoforsen, the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, has written to the Ghana Revenue Authority to request detailed comparative data on Kelny GVG's revenue assurance and mobile money monitoring. The legislator has given the GRA 14 days to provide information or face legal action. So I'm going to quote him briefly. He says, based on these two concerns, so let me start from here so that you have some background. So he said this was worrying because it pointed towards, one, weak post-evaluation mechanisms and ethical and credibility concerns in dealing with the telcos. He said Ghanaians, including parliamentarians, have not been provided with information on the success or otherwise of this project. It has pointed towards the weak evaluation mechanism and ethical and credibility concerns in dealing with the telcos. So based on these two concerns, In pursuance of Article 21F of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, I will kindly request that your office furnishes my office with all detailed reports, if any, submitted by County GVG in this regard. And of course, this is relating to how much it cost in the first place. He said, considering the projected additional tax revenue from the 3% increase in CST of 190 million Ghana cedis, one wonders if the County GVG project is discontinued, there wouldn't be enough savings to reduce the magnitude of increase in the CST to lessen the burden on the citizenry. So, Leonard, provide some context with, and of course, the Deputy Minister of Communication has responded, that's George Anda, and he's saying that GRA-NCA will release data on Kelny GVG if necessary.
I think more transparency is good. we need more transparency.
Is there any connection between the communication service tax and Kelny GVG?
Yes, because Kelny GVG is the organization contracted to monitor and then collect on behalf of government the charges expected from the telcos, particularly the communication service charge. And with that, I think I will agree with the Honorable MP.
Why?
Because more transparency is good. We don't need less. We need more, and that's why it's also encouraging that the telcos themselves are beginning to be transparent. And I think we should take them at it and then demand more, that periodically they provide us with the breakdown of the charges that they make on us.
Are you satisfied with the work of Kelny GVG so far?
I think there's been a lot of issues with their contracting, and but then the only way we will be able to assess their performance is if the public have more information on what they are doing, how much they are collecting, how much is going into administration or the collection actually, and what are the proceeds after all of their expenses. I think those things are in law, or have already been ironed out as to how much they will use or spend in collection and for the administrative costs and their fees and everything. But then the public needs an idea about how much is accruing, and are we meeting the expected targets that were envisioned, and how smoothly is this collection going? Because part of the problem then also was about more transparency from the telcos in terms of the data, and based on which an organization like Kelny GVG will place the charge. Yeah. So it's important that we are in the dark now. We are in the dark. So the more information we get as civil society, as the general public, as the different agencies in the sector, the more able or ability we'll have to point out which areas could be improved and which areas are commendable. Okay. So that's why I will agree with the MP's request.
Okay, thank you. Edward?
Yeah, Dziffa, I agree totally with my brother that transparency and accountability are key ingredients when we are talking about healthy democracies everywhere. Now, from the beginning, there has been a lot of controversies. I remember a CSO going to court to compel the Ministry of Communication to release the contractual agreements and other relevant documents. Yeah. They were hesitant from the beginning, but the court ordered that they need to finish the CSOs with the requisite information. My concern has to do with the cost-benefit analysis, in the sense that we are committing over $180 million to a company to come and do something that another organization has been doing for us all this while. Government made a strong case that what the previous organization or company was doing was highly ineffectual, and that with Kelny DVG, we're going to have a superior service, and the level of communication, traffic tracking, okay, was going to reduce, especially fraud when it comes to mobile money and all of that. So now we need to know that the money that has been committed and the case that government made, what is its status? Are we getting value for money? The amount of money that has been committed and the revenue that is projected, are we making headway? And I believe it is just a call in the right direction. But you see, I'm disappointed that it had to take somebody, no less a person like member of parliament, to petition for us to even get to this point. Because government itself should have been forthcoming with information, especially when a huge dozen of doubt was cast on the whole arrangement. You understand? Now let's look at the response that is going to come from the GRA. What the deputy minister said, I don't want to go by that because he is not the custodian of the information.
That's true.
But his posture is unhealthy. As if he is saying that...
Oh, you listened to him on Eyewitness News?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
He said, you are going to decide whether to release the information or not.
Okay, so let me quote him for the benefit of our viewers.
Okay.
So the Deputy Minister of Communications, John Anda, said on Eyewitness News last night, I believe that the implementers of this common monitoring platform are the NCA and the Ghana Revenue Authority. I am not aware that either the NCA or GRA have complained about the level of service or otherwise of the vendor as far as the management of this common platform is concerned. It is indeed his right to ask for that information, and I believe that if the authority believes that what he is asking for is in the right direction, the information will be provided to him. So what you're saying is,
yes,
the honorable member of parliament doesn't even need to ask for this. Ghanaians should have access to this information.
So far as taxpayers' money is being committed to this project, we deserve to know its status, whether we are making headway or not. And I want to just make this call on the NCA that they should not fidget with this. They should not try to conceal information. Their body language should smack of openness that Kani GVG was a good deal that is good for the nation, and that at any particular point in time when they are being called upon to be transparent and bring out the true facts of the matter, they are ready to do that. If not for anything at all, for the joy and beauty of democracy.
Thank you very much. Oh, you had something to add. Okay, and then we'll move on to the final topic.
And by way of strengthening our institution, I mean, Parliament is a very important organ in our democracy. It represents the will of the people, and then also in its function as in having oversight over the executive. So I don't know the position that the honorable MP hold, whether he's a ranking member of the Finance Committee, but then he should be able to write and request for said documents.
Yeah, he is a ranking member of the Finance Committee.
Yes, and those documents provided to him as part of his oversight functions. I mean, if Parliament or ranking members of Parliament cannot demand of the executive to have such documents, then Parliament is essentially not performing its duties, and we will not be realizing the benefits of our society, of our democracy.
Democratic, yeah.
So it doesn't matter which political party the person is coming from or is in. As the ranking member of the committee, and then also playing the oversight role expected of the committee, it should be able to request and receive such documents. So it does not lie with the minister to decide when or whether.
Well, he said GRA and NCA. He said it wasn't his call.
It is not for the
GRA and NCA.
I mean, there's a reason why we have political appointees presiding over these agencies.
Okay.
Because they are accountable. It is not the bureaucrats, it is not the technocrats, it is the minister. And the minister can cause these documents to be provided.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll take a look at our final story. I'm reading from page 16 of the Ghanaian Times, and it says here, efforts to reduce fraud, cybercrime, prank calls. Government orders SIM card re-registration from January to June 2020. The Minister of Communications, Mrs. Ursula Owusu-Ekuful, has announced that with effect from January 1st, 2020, all mobile phone users would be required to undergo a re-registration of their cards. This, according to her, was in line with the strict compliance of the law on the acquisition and registration of SIM cards in the country. I'll quote her briefly. Even though the SIM registration regulations are still in force, it is not being enforced due to the lack of an acceptable fake proof identification card and non-existence of verification by a national database to ensure the traceability of individuals who registered the SIM card. So she goes on and on to talk about how important it is for subscribers to be properly identified so that they can get value for the services that they are paying for. So I'll read this one briefly. SIM registration also enables subscribers to be properly identified for use of value-added services such as mobile banking, mobile money, and electronic payment services. Due to the crucial nature of SIM registration and its security implications for the country, MNOs were required to ensure SIMs were registered properly before activation on the mobile network to avoid inconsistencies and fake subscriber identity. So, of course, this is not happening the way that it's supposed to happen, and the minister wants to solve this. She goes on to even talk about how some of the people registering people for SIM cards are not qualified to do so. They just stand in the streets. People are unlocking phones when they are not supposed to be doing so. So, Edward, touch on this. Us having to now re-register our SIM cards to fight fraud, cybercrime, and prank calls.
Well, Dziffa, sometimes I feel very melancholic, as in we having the same conversation over and over again. You know, we are once again at a revolving door, you see. Look, as at the time we committed the resources, taxpayers' money, to undertake this particular exercise, what measures were put in place? Who were those that did the evaluation to ensure that at every particular point in time, the KPIs that were going to set for everybody, they were actually meeting them? And now we need to come back to this point where we have to do everything all over again. So meaning SIM card will now be like a driver's license where you have to renew every year. Like really, you know, we are just making a travesty of what good governance and what decisive leadership should be.
But if we've been doing the wrong thing all along, shouldn't we start doing the right things now? People have been doing a lot of illegal things as far as mobile communication service is concerned. And the minister is saying, let's right our wrongs.
Dziffa, the concern here is everything that government is going to do, it attracts some level of cost. And you and I are going to pay.
But we should do the right thing, shouldn't we?
So right now, we discussed Kearney GVG a while ago. One of the strong cases that government made for bringing in Kearney GVG was that we're going to reduce fraud. So if the fraud is taking place, it means the very purpose of bringing in Kearney GVG and committing $180 million, that very purpose has been defeated. You understand? So that we need to now do this exercise all over again and commit resources. Look, the Ministry of Communication must set up to be in charge of our communication spectrum. It's not just about giving directives and speaking in the media. It's about bringing on board policies, directive that is going to lessen our burden and is going to make life easier for us, whilst at the same time improving the level of communication that goes on in this country. Communication has improved so much that even with studies, you understand?
But if communications have improved, sorry to cut you off, if we are communicating well and people are still victims of cybercrime, I commit a fraudulent act against you, the communication service provider can't trace it back to me because whoever registered me for the SIM did not do his or her due diligence. Shouldn't we fix it from that point so that you can be rest assured that if anybody, commits a crime against you, if you are defrauded, they will find the person and the person will have to pay for it.
So do we all agree that there has been some failure? with regards to the previous exercise. That is why it has become very necessary for us to do the right thing now.
Okay.
If that is the premise, who is going to pay for that failure? Is she ready to accept responsibility that, okay, this is what my ministry supervised and the right thing was not
way
done?
Before she was even in power.
Fine.
Well, I get it. You take the liabilities and the
NCA is there. There are people who are still in office, you understand, enjoying so much good conditions of service, whilst all these things are going on.
Okay.
So in as much as we agree that we need to commit some resources, they've not said it, but in the final analysis, resources are going to go. The people that superintended over that level of ineptitude, are they ready to take responsibility for that?
Okay. Leonard, should people be held accountable for not regulating this sector well enough? Or should it just be a case of, okay, guys, go ahead and re-register your SIM and let's call it a day?
I think there should be some costs. Other than that, we'll not learn from some of these failures. And I think the minister is well within a lane now on this particular matter. And I mean, they have more information because they have the whole intelligence apparatus supporting them. So they might know things that we will not know.
But why aren't people being held accountable for this right now? There should be names out. Yeah, she even mentioned people going to unlock phones. That is illegal. Businesses that are doing the right things not being able to make the profit because so many people have been doing the wrong thing for so long that that has become the normal thing to do. Who are the people who are supposed to regulate this sector?
So what this directive shows is that the data are somewhat being compromised, and that the security precautions or firewalls that were built around the previous collection, the data that we had, were not that strong.
Yeah.
But then what it also means, like you suggested, is that the regulator has also been sleeping. Not only the regulator, but then the telcos have also been abusing the system, not going up, because it is at that point. And this is where you need the regulator following up, monitoring, and applying sanctions. You don't wait for the issues to fester, then you pass on the entire cost to the larger society. Because this whole re-registration is going to cause a lot of inconvenience.
And we're going
but then I mean, people will put a lot of motives on this or assume a lot of things. I mean, you know, we are going into an election year. And
okay, on that note.
So let me just caution and advise that the NCA must take this call. There needs to be a spirited departure from reactive regulation to proactive regulation. Okay. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. On that note, thank you at home as well for joining us. I did have with me, and they are still here, Leonard Shang-Quartey, who is a coordinator of Tax Justice Coalition, sorry. They are usually here for Tax Dialogue, so my brain is still on Tax Dialogue. And Edward Tuttor, who is a convener of the Dynamic Youth Movement of Ghana. We've received some messages from you, so I'll read that briefly. So here, Abbas from Offenso says, my question is, are we not paying double tax on this CST thing? There is VAT in all goods and services in Ghana, so why pay other sorts of money again? The MPP government is just funny, very quick to impose hardship secretly. I don't think there was any secret to this one, but okay. Ayuk Farouk from Tamale North constituency says, good morning. Government cannot run away from not being part of the telcos' inhumane charges mounted on us. The 9% charge is unrealistic and must be removed. Okay, there's another message here. When we buy fuel, we pay for any tax on it before we use the fuel. We don't exhaust the fuel before we pay the tax. So you are agreeing with the telcos that they should tax us upfront. But I think some people also saying they can tax us while you're using the services, so not necessarily after you use the service. And I think for the first question, yeah, the 9% tax is a bit much, but legally, the telcos have not done anything wrongly. At least that's according to both of my guests. So
and it's exactly so.
It's exactly so. The telcos have done the right thing.
Yes.
We might be in pain, but they were supposed to pass on that 6% to us as well. So government
should not shift
If there's
to
any
the
hope for
telcos.
us, government should just do the right thing by abolishing this particular tax.
Okay.
That's
Thank you at home for being with us. Do not go anywhere. Up next, we'll be talking to Dr. Kelvin Owusu, and we're still in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So the conversation will be centered around it. We'll be right back. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The City Tube.
For exclusive Breakfast Daily content and other City TV programs.
Like, comment, and share with your friends.